Welcome to All Tech Radio on our new YouTube podcast. This is a show where you learn about the news and technology related to working in the world of IT. So no matter where your job is in IT, we cover all aspects of work-life balance, job duties, salary, and everything else related to computers and technology. I am your host, Professor Robert McMillan, and joining me is my co-host, IT consultant, Scott Portinga. So welcome to the first YouTube podcast, Scott.
It has been a while.
Yes.
How long has it been, Bob?
Well, we had 13 years of being on the radio together. Well, you were there for a lot of it, and then we had a couple other people that were there along the way too. But 13 years of being on the radio. We were on AM radio for many years, and now we have switched over to podcasting. Why is that? Why did we move to podcasting?
Well, I think it comes down to it, more people listen to podcasts than listen to AM radio.
Radio is dead.
Oh, they've been saying that for years, though.
Yes, they've been saying it, but it still goes on. But yeah, we were on AM radio in San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, on a couple different stations. Yeah, we were, all over the place, and it was very fun. We did it to not only because we like to do it, and it also promoted our business at the time, which we sold in 2017, and there went the radio show with it.
Yeah, the new owners were just not interested in developing that side of the business.
They were not. But YouTube has approved our podcast, so I'm very excited to be here. So let's just get right into it. I'm going to go ahead. For those of you who are watching on radio, watching on podcasting, you'll be able to see, there we go, what it is that we're talking about. So that's kind of cool. I got a lot of really interesting things to talk about in the world of IT. And what I like to do is, what Scott and I like to do is we like to take things from the headlines and talk about it in our show. And one of those things is going to be about AI. Of course, AI is making all the different rounds. Have you used a lot of ChatGPT and some other things, Scott?
I have not. I've played with it a little bit, but I really haven't had the time to really dig into it and see what the capabilities are or what the downside is.
In information technology, which has to do with operations, right? Hands-on type stuff for the most part. We're not programmers. We're not developers. I mean, there are some that do both, and we call those people DevOps people, right? But we're more on the operations side of things, and
Hey,
AI.
don't say moron.
What's that?
I said, hey, don't say moron.
Yeah, yeah, and we don't actually have anything to do with artificial intelligence for the most part, unless we're writing an article and we don't want to actually do the work ourselves. But AI doomsday worries many Americans. Almost half of Americans are concerned about the possibility that artificial intelligence will cause the end of the human race on Earth. This, according to an article from YouGov.com. So really an interesting article. They went through here and talked to the various different people and polled them, 1,000 U.S. adult citizens, and they're worried about AI just taking over, basically a Terminator type of a thing. I love those Terminator movies. You watched all those, didn't you?
Well, those weren't movies, Bob. Those are documentaries. Sent from the future.
Future documentaries, that's right. You could be right, who knows? But, as it is now, I think the people that have been the most fearful in our industry anyway are the programmers and developers, because, you've got some bosses who are saying, well, we don't need 30 programmers and developers. We could get away with 5, and they could just use, ChatGPT or other AIs out there and have them do the work, for them. But I think that is a huge mistake, because I think that what this does is it makes things better. I've always said, when I teach my college classes, I ask my students, I say, hey, who are the worst people in the world? And they're like, I don't know, dictators, things like. I say, no, programmers. Programmers are the worst people in the world. If you think about it, every security issue we've ever had, every hack we've ever had, ransomware, it's either because of lazy programmers and developers, or the hackers who are not lazy, who are hungry, who are exploiting what the lazy programmers and developers have written. And so what I believe is that you could use artificial intelligence to secure your code, make better code, make it so it's not going to be hackable, and hopefully, I'll remove that theory that I have and put it back on the dictators.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I heard Joe
think I'll be-
Biden called President Xi of China a dictator this week. I don't know if you read that.
Yeah, I heard that. I think I will end up using it a lot for scripting. I do a lot of scripts for doing things on servers and on PCs behind the scenes. I think it could help. I can just say I need a script that does this to this program, and see what it comes up with. I'll still have to tweak it, I think, and that's why you were saying programmers aren't going away. They're still going to have to massage it a bit because it's going to be kind of rough, but it still will save a lot of time.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm writing a course for LinkedIn Learning on advanced PowerShell for managing Active Directory. And I thought, I wonder if I could save a little bit of time by going into ChatGPT and and asking it a question like, what is the PowerShell equivalent of the dcdiag command? Dcdiag is used to basically go in and diagnose any Active Directory problems. And so I asked what it is, and it gave me the completely wrong answer. And I'm like, well, this isn't going to save me any time. This is going to make things go longer. So yeah, that was pretty useless. But I know that other people are saying, hey, it's good. Another theory is that it's getting dumber. Have you heard this?
No.
Yeah, some people
if
are.
it's sucking up all the data on the internet. Yes, it will be.
Yeah, and I think it's exactly what's happening. Is people who said in the very beginning it gave really great answers, it's now giving really dumb answers. And so instead of having it answer the correct thing like 9 out of 10 times, it's now only answering the correct thing maybe 3 or 4 out of 10 times. So keep that in mind. No matter what ChatGPT says, you got to make sure that it is accurate.
Yep.
You've installed a lot of certificates in your job as an IT consultant, an IT administrator over the years, I assume.
Yeah.
Public certificates, self-signed certificates, Active Directory root server certificates, all kinds of things like that, right?
Yeah, they need certificates for certain apps to talk to a server down in Frisco. Yep, things like that. Yep.
Yeah, I get it. Well, here's something that will be infuriating to all of us in IT, and that is, there's this organization called the Certification Authority that basically makes recommendations about certificates, and they are talking about recommending certificates not be valid for as long. So I don't know if you remember, well, I'm sure you do, but a few years back, you could get a certificate to last 3 years. You pay the extra money and it lasts 3 years. You don't have to replace it for that time. And then they changed it to 1 year. And now they're talking about changing it to every 30 days.
Well, more work for me.
Wow. Well, yeah, okay, more work for you. But what if you forget? Then all of a sudden an organization can't communicate with that San Francisco server. It doesn't have a valid certificate for its web browser. It doesn't have, all these different things. And it's interesting that the certification authority is made up of vendors.
Really?
Vendors
So
who
you'll end up paying them more money.
yeah, they're making the decisions to make you buy the certificates every 30 days instead of every year.
Well, unless it's the same cost divided by 12, we're getting scammed.
No, it's just the same cost times 12. That's all it is. So these are for PKI enabled applications, X509, X3, V3 digital cert. These are all the big SSL TLS certificates. This is all the stuff, that we typically do. So a decision hasn't been, I think we're waiting for people to complain. So I would definitely look up the Certification Authority. It's this browser forum that they work out of, and it's called CAB, Certification Authority Browser, and go in and complain as much as you possibly can before they change it all to every 30 days.
What's their justification for this?
Security, You've heard that before, right?
Well, then it'll become weekly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like we're going to kneel on your neck to make things more secure.
Yep.
Oh, we broke your neck. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, too
that
bad.
happens sometimes.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. All right. So, are you happy as an IT consultant, Scott?
Well, I am. Yeah, I really enjoy the work. I enjoy working with clients. Yeah, I like it.
All right. Well, the best industries for job satisfaction came out, and this is from Monster.com. And although Monster.com has become a lot less reliable over the years, just because they have a lot of scammy things going on with recruiters from other countries. But
Yep.
yeah, it came out with a good article here. Best industries for job satisfaction, and number 4, information technology and network security. Has come in as the job with the some of the best job satisfaction, and of course there's a lot of different things that goes along with information technology, network security. It says here cyber attacks, digital threats, all these different things, and of course general IT work as well. I go to Reddit a lot, Reddit.com, and go to their sysadmin forum, and I post there every now and then. And what's interesting is a lot of times they'll post about the terrible bosses they have, and while other guys are like, oh no, I have great bosses. I think you're pretty much only going to post about terrible bosses if you are not happy. But if you are happy, you're probably not going to say anything. But this poll here tells us that, hey, information technology, network security, number 4, and just in case you're interested, number 3 is consulting, which is you're sort of like a combination of those things. 2 is human resources, which you are not at all.
I'm a great resource, Bob.
Human resources comes and talks to you, I think, more often than anything else. And tax consulting and auditing. Now, I've been around a lot of tax consultants, having worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers years back, and I've found that they drink the most, which makes me think that they're probably not all that happy. But I don't know, I could be wrong.
That's true, but they spend their time finding other people's problems, so it makes theirs pale in comparison. So they're happy.
Oh, okay. So if they're getting divorced and they're alcoholics and stuff like that, and they see somebody getting audited by the IRS, they're just laughing away. Okay.
Good.
All right. That's cool. I think I mentioned to you that, many years ago, but just for fun, I did, come across Phil Knight's tax return one time. Oh, man. Sitting right on the desk. It was like I was trying to fix a computer. It was like, I can't not. I didn't look. I don't worry about it. I didn't look.
And you deleted the pictures.
I deleted it. Yeah, no, I didn't take any pictures. I didn't take many pictures. No, I didn't take any pictures. But yeah, that was kind of interesting. Anyway, he does okay. Just to let you know, he does fine.
Yeah, I think he gets by fine.
Did you see the new Air movie on Netflix? Well, it's not even new anymore. It's been out for a couple months, I think.
I have not watched it, and we canceled our Netflix.
What? Why would you do such a thing?
Oh, because they upped the prices. We just got tired of it.
Yeah, it used to be like $10. Now it's like $20.
It's gone up, and we realized we've got Paramount, we've got HBO Max, we've got Hulu. We've got these other things that really, do we really need Netflix?
What do you
One
watch
more
on
thing to
Paramount,
watch.
by the way?
What's that?
What do you watch on Paramount?
They have a lot of good Star Trek stuff.
Yeah, I love those new. It's funny. They moved, well, not moved, but they have, made available, the Pike one. What's that one called? Strange New Worlds? Yeah, I think it's Strange New Worlds. Yeah. They've
Yep.
made that available on Netflix, the first 2 seasons.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So here you are paying for it, and I get to watch it. Well, I guess I'm paying for Netflix. But, yeah. Well, for me, it's $20 for Netflix because I got the not the HD. What do you call it? The 4K one. Yeah. But it's funny when you put 4K on. It's really hard to tell the difference in between HD and 4K.
If it's not 4K, created media, then you're not really going to see much difference.
That may be what the problem is, but it is kind of nice, to I mean, it looks different on different TVs. That's the other funny thing. You know,
Yeah.
I got, you know, I got two different 4K TVs in two different rooms, and on one it looks fantastic, and the other one it looks like, I don't know why.
Yeah, I remember down at CIS there were some displays down there that were tuned for what they wanted to do. And it looked awesome. Yeah, the 4K, and then they had an 8K one year too.
Yeah, I remember you and I went to that first 4K one, and they created a video that was just mind blowing. I mean, you're like, oh, I got to have this. And then when they came out with the 4K TV shows, you're like, well, yeah, it's better, but it's not that much better.
Yeah, it's not worth it. So
Lenovo, we like Lenovo, and they came out with a new laptop that is just, I think it's just crazy. I got to start from the top and scroll my way down. All right, so here's what the laptop looks like, right? Typical looking laptop from the first, get go, but it does some crazy stuff. So this is the Yoga Book 9i. You know anybody who ever had a Yoga Book? Those have been pretty popular.
I do not know anybody. I've seen a few out there. I don't know anybody personally with one though.
Okay, well they're pretty expensive. Like this one retails for $2,000. It's 2800 by 1800 OLED touchscreen, so that's pretty impressive. For a laptop. Most are stopping at 1080, not 1800.
Yeah.
1 terabyte SSD. That's pretty standard stuff nowadays. Although it's the Gen 4 PCIe, which is pretty good. Comes with a 1440p webcam. That's impressive.
Wow.
Yeah. And the battery capacity has 80 watt hours, and the weight is only 3.5 pounds. So I'm guessing this will probably hit for about 1,500. On the store shelves or in Amazon or wherever it is that you buy stuff now at CDW. But here's where it gets interesting. Take a look at this picture. So it has dual screens. And so it looks like, so don't let this fool you. It looks like the screen is coming up from the back and sliding upwards. That's not what's happening. What you're doing is you're seeing the full laptop. It has two screens, but the keyboard detaches. So it's the attached keyboard is sitting on the table while you're looking at these two screened, single laptop. It gets weirder. Do you remember the Microsoft Duo tablet? Microsoft, I have the Microsoft Duo phone, so it's got the, the two screens. And I waited until it came down in price. You can get the original Duo phone now for $200 on Amazon. I bought it when it was a little bit more. I think it was like $600 when I bought it. But if you want to get one, there's still very good phones. Then the Duo 2 phone is they're Androids, by the way. The Duo 2 phone I think is still around $800 or $900. It was originally $1,500, but they we're talking about coming out with Windows Duo tablet. And the Duo tablet was basically just like this, but it was running Windows 11 or 10, whatever. And, it has the two screens, but just picture the same thing running Windows, but much larger, right? So 10-inch screens on either side. Now look at this. Here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. Ah, there it is.
Ooh.
They took the laptop, which has two screens, and they opened it up vertically. Now it looks just like the Windows Duo tablet, and it's touchscreen. The keyboard, is sitting on the table, so you can decide to use the keyboard if you want to. You could use a mouse if you want to, but you can use this just like that Duo tablet that they had been talking about for years, but never decided to release.
That looks nice.
That looks really nice. The both screens are 13.3 inches diagonally, so it's not a huge laptop, which makes the 2880 by 1800 even more impressive. But so it's not huge, but if you spread them out together, now you've got, I guess, technically 26 inches of screen. I don't know. I can't. I have to measure it. But I think this is really cool. It might actually be worth the $1,500.
It is, especially for people that like to work off two screens. And if you're doing a lot of documentation, that's ideal.
Yeah, very cool. Did you? Shoot, I can't remember which movie this was. There was a movie where the Microsoft actually released in the movie, someone was using the Duo tablet. I wish I could remember that movie, but it was pretty cool. But they never actually released it out into the public. Apple, Apple. So you remember when we used to buy Apple products because nobody ever attacked them, and you say, "Oh, you never get viruses on Apple."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those days are gone. Apple's 0-day alert, another one. So they released patches for this actively exploited flaw in the iOS, macOS, and Safari. Safari's not an operating system.
No, it's just a browser.
Well, then, it's just okay. It's just a flaw in the browser itself. Then, so if you're using Windows with Safari, I guess that could be technically an issue.
I don't know anybody that does that.
Yeah, that would be pretty rare. But it also covers the Watch OS. Didn't you used to have an Apple Watch?
I still do.
Oh, you're still wearing it.
Yep.
Now, how old is that thing?
It's a Series 3.
What are they up to now?
They're about to release the Series 8, I think. But it still works. I mean, it doesn't have the fall protection, so it won't call 911 if I fall down.
Well, you might need that pretty soon. I don't know. We're getting up there.
My blood pressure, things like that. But
okay. Hey, it still works.
it works great.
Now, will it handle updates? So if this patch comes out, will it be able to handle it?
Well, let me see, because I applied the patch to my phone.
Oh, okay. Wait, you're still using that iPhone 6?
Oh, I would never use an iPhone 6.
Oh, come on.
It's an iPhone 7, Bob.
Oh, okay. iPhone's okay. Okay, good. All right. So
There's a big difference.
This includes a pair of, well, while you do that, I'll just read this up. This includes a pair of 0 days that have been weaponized in a mobile surveillance campaign called Operation Triangulation. It's been going on since 2019. Apparently, they're just getting around to patching something that came out in 2019.
Yes, I do have a patch that's available for my watch.
Oh, okay. So Kaspersky actually figured this out. Georgy Kucherin and Leonid Bezvershenko.
Leo.
Have you met any of these guys?
I may have met Leo, yeah.
Well, Kaspersky, they got a really bad rap, obviously being in Russia, and Kaspersky himself having some, when I say ties to Putin, I don't necessarily mean he's tied to Putin. But he was getting tired of having everybody blackball his company, and he just picked it up and moved it to, I think it's London.
Yeah, I think the main office that we dealt with, I think they had some labs in Russia, but as far as administrative and sales and everything, it was in, I think, Boston and London.
And then they just picked up and moved the whole thing there. So I don't know what's still going on in Russia, if any. I don't think there's actually anything going on there still. But I hear the same thing is happening with Chinese companies. They, Dictator Z, you remember him?
Oh, yeah.
He came out and said, you can't have more than $10 billion because he doesn't want those people, controlling the country. That's actually a really good, thing. I think we should have a cap similar to that. So you don't have these people that are using their money to, affect our elections, right? However, there's very few things I agree with on Dictator Z, and that actually is not a bad one. So all these companies will be like, well, I want to make more than $10 billion. And so a lot of them just picked up and moved. They moved to Singapore, they moved to, Taiwan, they moved to, all different places because they didn't want that kind of limitation.
I haven't looked at the details yet, but apparently they have changed. They've added some things to their espionage laws such that Western companies are going to have a real tough time doing anything. There's things that are perfectly legal in every other country in the world that are now going to be, espionage in China, and they will prosecute.
Wow, interesting.
So yeah, lots of companies are going to be going, not just because of the $10 billion, just because they can't even really do business there.
Wow. All right. Well, we'll see what shakes out of that because, China's economy is not doing that great nowadays.
Yep.
Microsoft fixes Azure Active Directory authentication flaw, enabling account takeover. So I don't know if you've heard about this, but you've used Azure you've used Azure plenty of times.
Oh, yeah.
What about Azure Active Directory? Have you had reason to use any of that?
Use it all the time.
All right. How about Azure Active Directory Domain Services?
Domain services.
Yeah, a lot of people are not aware of the difference between Azure Active Directory and Azure Active Directory Domain Services. I don't blame you at all. It's very few people have heard of it. So what Microsoft did was they came out with this product that they wanted to use to replace on-premises Active Directory. And so they tied it to plain old Azure Active Directory, but so it's tied in a way where it's kind of sideways. So Azure Active Directory is here on the left, Azure Active Directory Domain Services is on the right, and there's a one-way synchronization. So if you create a user in Azure Active Directory, it synchronizes over to Azure Active Directory Domain Services, and you can join computers to it. You even get virtual domain controllers when you set this up, and
Cool.
it acts just like it's an on-premises server. Initially, you had to have a VPN tunnel between your location and Azure Active Directory Domain Services, which added an additional amount of money every day to what you're spending.
Oh, every hour.
Yeah, every hour, right? But I think that they have come up with a way of doing this publicly. I haven't tested it yet, but a way of doing this publicly so you don't need to have a tunnel. But I'll have to look into that a little bit more.
Yeah, I was looking into Azure Bastion.
Yes, Bastion. Yes.
Is that a way of connecting the two?
Bastion's a little different. So instead of having a VPN tunnel between you and Azure Active Directory or Azure Active Directory Domain Services, what a Bastion would do would be a public way that you would connect into Azure without needing a VPN. And then once you're inside the Bastion server, then you have full access to everything inside. So it wouldn't be a way of joining a computer to a domain, but it would be a way of accessing all of its services without a tunnel.
Yeah, I've got a client that what we're going to do is we're going to set up some Azure desktops.
Virtual
And then
desktops?
Yep, and then get access to them through Bastion, so we don't have to have VPN connections.
That sounds good. That would actually work. Yeah. That would be a perfect way to do it. And you could join those Azure Active Directory, those Azure virtual machines to the Azure Active Directory Domain Services if you wanted them to be members of the domain. So yeah, I actually have videos of that on my YouTube page. They're two separate videos. One's, for the virtual machines and one's for the domain services. I don't have a Bastion video yet, but I should do that. But for those of you who don't know, if you go to techpublishing.com, it redirects you to my YouTube page. And I've got about 4,000 videos, all, basically sysadmin related videos that help you do things on premises, in the cloud, all different types of products. So, check it out. I know it's funny whenever I meet somebody I haven't seen in a few years, they go, "Oh yeah, I did a search for something and one of your videos came up."
What I really like about some of the videos, not to, pump Bob up here, but a lot of them are very short, distinct, and to the point. He doesn't give you a lot of fluff. He says, "Oh, you need to be able to do this. This is what you do."
Thank you.
So
That is right. I don't say, hey, smash that like button. If you, I don't do any of that kind of stuff. So yeah, you got a problem. This is how you solve it. And there's not even. I even took off. There was like a 4-second preamble to every video, and I think it just irritated people, so I just took it off. So when you open that video, it just goes right to how to solve the problem. Closing in on about 50 million views. So plenty of people are getting helped by it, and glad to be doing it. But just sort of an extension of teaching, college to various students. I got roped into 3 classes this summer. That's going to start next week. Fortunately, they're all going to be remote, so I don't have to go into the college this term. I will have to go back in the fall, but it was really weird in the spring, just this last term that just ended. I had to go in and teach on campus, and I hadn't done it in 3 years. And I went to go see my office because, I left my office, when they said, everybody up, everybody out, our access cards got cut off, everything was, no good anymore. And so I went back to my office to see, if there's any of my stuff left. And now it's somebody else's office. Somebody else took over.
Yeah, they sent you an email, you didn't respond, therefore you lost money.
All my stuff is gone. I mean, not that it was my stuff; it belonged to the college, but
Yeah,
yeah. Oh well,
yeah,
that's fine. I mean, I wasn't using it anyway, apparently.
yeah.
So, CISA. You ever have you subscribed to CISA? CISA.
Oh,
It
of
is
course.
Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
Yep.
Yeah. So, for those of you who are in charge of security or just want to make sure your network is secure, go to CISA.gov, CISA.gov, and sign up on their list for notifications, alerts. So what'll happen is anytime a big, I mean, they don't do the little stuff. Anytime something that affects a lot of people comes up, then it will send you an email, a notification, and say, hey, there's this new exploit that's come out. Here's the operating systems. Here's what it does. Here's the threat level. And like I said, they usually only do the big ones. So if you get an email from CISA, it's probably serious stuff. It's really good, type of thing to have. So you say you're signed up?
Oh yeah, I'm signed up. I have a client who's signed up, and she emails me. Oh, did you see this?
That's good.
Do we need to be worried about this? Yeah, she is my most paranoid client. We've got a multi-layer protection in place for them, Malwarebytes and Bitdefender and Darktrace. And we do stuff through Office 365 for screening there. And we've got WatchGuard firewalls. And yeah, it's,
Wow.
yep,
That
yep.
sounds like they're all set. That's great.
For some reason, they have a little company that has been a target. And they don't know why, but she's not taking any chances.
Well, that's kind of weird. It's interesting how some people are high on the targeted list, either because people in their industry tend to have lax security, or they tend to have a pot of gold, that they're, like finance or health, that they're trying to get to. So it's interesting how hackers pick their targets. I would love
Yep.
to interview some of these people that do. Maybe I'll go to Black Hat. Maybe Black
There we
Hat's
go.
in Las Vegas every year, and ask those guys, why do you do that?
Because it's fun.
And profitable, apparently.
Yep.
On Thursday, the U.S. Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, added 6 more security flaws to its known exploited vulnerability list. And of course, it's because of Russians. Russian APT-28 cyber spies. They're not very good at naming themselves. I don't know if you noticed that. Not a lot of imagination when it comes to the naming of themselves, but that's all right. So they are hacking into email servers belonging to the Ukrainian government, which totally makes sense. I mean, they are at war. So, I mean, they are at what do they call that? Military.
I don't know what they call it, but
Russia calls it anything but a war. It's a
exactly.
kerfuffle.
Oh,
It's a kerfuffle.
people have been put in jail for calling it a war in public in Russia.
Yeah, that's true. So anyway, there are some updates to that. So make sure that you check out CISA.gov. I'm not going to necessarily go into the particular vulnerabilities, except for one. So there's a VMware bug. A lot of people out there, use VMware. So what's interesting, I read about VMware. VMware has some bugs between the operating system and the virtual machine. So those of you who are not familiar with virtual machines, when it comes to VMware's ESXi operating system, when you first load ESXi, it's just basically a Linux operating system, right? It's just a very lightweight, supposedly very secure operating system. It doesn't do a lot, except for host virtual machines. And so in order to even configure and create the virtual machines, you have to do it from another computer. You can't even do it on the computer itself. So you have to have a client installed, say, on a Windows computer or whatever. I assume they have a Mac one. I know they have Linux. So you install this on, say, your Windows computer, and then you connect into that VMware. That's where the security bug is. So if you have virtual machines that are running, and you somehow gain access to the Linux operating system that's running underneath the virtual machines that are running on top of it, then there's this security bug that allows you to take over and manipulate the virtual machines. So when VMware was confronted with it, and they said, "Hey, there's this bug here that you need to be aware of. When are you going to patch it?" And they say, "Oh yeah, we know about that bug." And I said, "Well, when are you going to patch it?" And they said, "We're not going to patch it." I said, "What do you mean you're not going to patch it?" No one's going to take advantage of that. So to this day, that bug, which was discovered a long time, well, months ago, I don't know about years, but months ago, they're like, yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
Exactly. So that's that.
Wow.
All right, DuckDuckGo. You ever use DuckDuckGo as a search engine?
I have it on all my browsers. I have clients that have it loaded exclusively. Yep.
Tell people why it is that people use this.
One of the biggest reasons is that the privacy. It doesn't keep your search results. It doesn't sell your search results. It just keeps your stuff only to you.
There you go. Well, but you use it as a browsing page that's on top of, say, Edge, Chrome, whatever, Firefox, whatever it is you're using. Now they're coming out with their own browser.
Excellent.
Yeah. So the DuckDuckGo browser for Windows available for everyone as a public beta. So the reason they say public beta is because obviously they don't have it working completely right. There could be some bugs in it that could cause some security issues. They don't know. So if you use it, don't use it to log into your bank. Let's just say that. But if you want to use it to do some general browsing, test it all out, then you can go ahead and do a search for the DuckDuckGo desktop browser. Install it. They have a Mac platform as well. And then see what you think of it. So they've got some interesting features on here. They've got tracker blocking. So it blocks third-party trackers from finding out who you are. So you don't end up getting, potential email or pop-ups or whatever. Smart encryption. So, pretty much everybody has that nowadays. Cookie pop-up management. It hides cookie consent pop-ups designed to trick or coerce users. So if you're not really that savvy when it comes to browsing the web and you see those pop-ups that say, "Hey, are you okay with our cookies?" You either click yes or you have to click in a whole bunch of different settings just to get to the point where it says disable cookies. Well, this thing will take care of that for you. It will just get rid of it. It'll also erase all browsing history, adds email protection, and it has a built-in YouTube player that allows users to watch ad-free. Wait a minute. No.
Okay, next story, Bob. Next story.
Hey, that's how I make my living, is on ads on YouTube. Well, it's not that much money. But it's funny, the ads on the YouTube thing, even though the hits on the site are still up there, in the hundreds of thousands, every month, it's the amount of money that Google now pays is less than half of what it was just 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So
they decided they're paying you guys too much money. We're going to take that away.
Exactly. I'm not as incentivized to make videos as much as I was before. I still do it, but I focus more on making, videos for courses on LinkedIn Learning and Pluralsight and some other ones. And then I also make courses, college courses for a company called Ascend Education. So they've made me their head of course development, which I'm very proud and happy to be doing. And so I'm like, if you're going to cut what it is that I'm making, I'm going to take my energies and put them elsewhere. Again, I still post to it, especially when I see something that's, super useful to a lot of people. But I don't post to it like I used to. So yeah, it's just amazing that,
Is there any opportunities over on Vimeo?
Vimeo is actually, from what I understand, is owned by Google now. And instead of them paying you, you pay to be on it. So every time you watch a video, somebody watches your videos, you pay for it. The difference is that there's no ads, so it's reverse kind of a thing. There's no ads for the people watching the videos, so the people who post the videos have to pay for them, and the quality of the sound and the video is at the highest possible level. Unlike YouTube, where you have to constantly play with the settings to get it to just be in focus.
So what you're saying is, if we know somebody that may have really pissed us off in the past and they have some videos on Vimeo, we should encourage people to go watch them.
That's an interesting theory. I'm not going to subscribe to it, but I'm not saying you're wrong, Scott.
We in no way endorse that kind of retribution, but let us know how it turns out for you.
Speaking of cybercrime, the great exodus to Telegram. So you're familiar, and of course, a lot of our viewers and listeners are going to be very familiar with Tor, right? So Tor allows you to anonymously, browse the internet, or the interwebs, as we like to call it, using onions and onion pages. So instead of .com, .net, .edu, it's .onion, and you can only use an onion site from using the Tor application, which runs on top of a Firefox kind of a setting. So what's interesting about this is that so many people are now buying and selling illegal things through these onion sites using Tor, that you've got a lot of people who are watching this from, police and federal and, that kind of thing. CIA, all these different people are watching to see, these sites, and then maybe even setting up their own onion sites to get you to try to buy from them, and then they would arrest you. So the people who are selling these kinds of illegal things, stolen credit cards, etc., they are now moving over to a program called Telegram. Have you ever used Telegram?
I have. I played with it for a bit, never really kept up with it, but
I've never tried Telegram. How is it different?
It's more secure. It's encrypted end to end, I think, is its big selling point. But it's just another texting program.
Okay. So Telegram has a lot of advantages. It's much faster than Tor. Tor goes through a whole bunch of different sites to try to obfuscate your IP address. So Telegram doesn't do it that way, so that's much faster. And it's apparently got better ability to do cybercrime without getting caught, mostly because not as many police and other officials are watching it. As long as people aren't watching it, they're going to be on it. So Telegram is where the bad guys are moving. So if you want to see what they're up to, then check that out. And, make sure you're over 18 and don't do anything illegal.
That's right.
VMware, we talked about them a little while ago, warns of critical vRealize flaw exploit in attacks. So they published something that's now patched, allowing remote code execution to being actively exploited in attacks. So if you do have VMware, make sure that you do your updates. I never liked the thing I never liked about VMware, and I've created hundreds of VMware virtual machines and even more on Hyper-V, and I never liked their support. I understand it's gotten better, but you would have to call ahead of time before you even have a problem and purchase either a single or a 3-pack or a 5-pack or whatever it is of support, which could cost. I think the 3-pack was $1,000. Yeah. And then when you have a problem, you call, you use one of your 3-pack, and then they help you out. But the problem is that if you hadn't pre-purchased that 3-pack or whatever it is that you're buying, then you've got to wait like 48 hours just to get the license before you can call them back with your problem.
Yep, you got to talk to sales first.
Yeah. Well, what if the whole system is down in the meantime? Now, my understanding is it's not that terrible anymore, but I think in general they're a terrible company. But yeah.
They've always just seemed kind of sketchy. I don't really even know any clients that use it anymore. I know we had one client back in the day that was huge. They had multiple, very large servers. They ran 20 or 30 different VMware virtual machines, and they ran their whole company on it.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that do. It's way more expensive than running a Hyper-V, because if you buy a Windows server, you get 2 Hyper-Vs for free anyway. Yeah, I haven't seen, since Microsoft came out with that, I haven't seen as many VMware deployments as I have Hyper-V, but they're still big.
Yeah, you're going to see, I think, people that are religiously opposed to Microsoft, they'll go VMware.
As they run their Windows servers on VMware.
Exactly. They're still running Windows servers because business runs on Windows. So how they're really going to get away with it or from it.
So they're trying to sell VMware off to Broadcom. Have you heard about this?
No.
Yeah, Broadcom wants to buy. Now, Broadcom is one of the most hated companies ever. They're known for making a lot of different types of devices, and their drivers for their devices have been known. And I've personally experienced, all the different kinds of problems. And they're like, oh yeah, sorry about that, and then they'll fix it and patch it. But in the meantime, they've left a trail of bodies, along the way. So Broadcom is trying to, buy this because nobody else wants it. Nobody else wants VMware.
Yeah, their day is past.
They're not a publicly traded company. They came as a deal when Dell bought some other company, and they're like, oh, hey, take VMware with you. Yeah, that's how much people want to own VMware. So keep that in mind, folks. All right, Microsoft shares workaround for Outlook freezes and slow start. So Microsoft has had a problem with Outlook for Microsoft 365 causing slow starts and freezes. I don't think this has to do with their latest issue of denial of service because of America's getting into Syria. We've been bombing a lot of things in Syria. So I think they hired hackers probably in Russia to do denial of service attacks, which have brought down Outlook. Now, I actually had mine go down yesterday. So my Outlook went down yesterday. But again, I don't think this has to do with any of the freezing or anything like that. But this still seems to be a problem. They're going after American companies, American tech companies. Any of your clients get affected by this denial of service?
I haven't seen anything beyond the normal slowness with Outlook.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Beyond the normal slowness. That's funny. So this has to do with Outlook syncing. So most of the time, when you open up Outlook, it syncs a local copy to your computer. And some people end up getting, saving everything. And it just, not a good idea. Yep. So these OST files, which is what the file that's locally in your computer, gets so big. I mean, we used to not get any bigger than 2 gigabytes. Remember those days? Now most people are, 10, 20, 30, some over 50 gigabytes of OST files. And our computers, our desktops just aren't able to handle those things very well. So it's a good idea to clean up your mailbox. If your email runs slow, it's probably because you saved too much stuff and it's synchronizing to your local computer.
Yeah, even if if you have a fast computer, lots of RAM and everything, it can still, Outlook itself will bog you down.
Yeah, SQL databases, and this is not SQL, but it's still a database. They are designed to run on high-end, high-speed, multiple drives in a RAID configuration. If they're not designed to run on a little SSD on your laptop. So it's you get up to 20, 30 gigabytes, it's going to be slow, and you're going to need to clean that mailbox out.
Yeah, I had to run scan PST for a client this morning.
Oh, and what did that do for him?
It goes through and it analyzes the OST file, looks for errors, makes sure that file connections are still there, checks all the folders, and it came up with errors. It usually does because just running the program creates errors, and it creates a backup of the database and then fixes it. So, and it did fix the issue.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you knew this, but in the latest version of Microsoft Outlook, this is for Microsoft 365, or if you've updated to Outlook 2021, and then you've updated it to the latest version, Microsoft disabled the ability to attach a PST file to Outlook.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you can import data from your PST into your mailbox. You can export data out of your mailbox to a PST, but you can't just take a PST and drag it into your Outlook or have it attached to your mailbox anymore. Bye bye.
That's irritating because I use that a lot for my work. It's like I'll have a data, somebody will want me to pull up this database and search for data.
Yeah, you're going to have to import that data now into like a folder on your mailbox, which,
Well, I'm not getting the newest version then.
there you go. Use Outlook 2019 or older, and you won't have to worry about it.
That's what I'll do.
And finally, Iowa's largest school district confirms a ransomware attack. Boo! So, we're still having the problem of people not, companies and schools and, organizations in general, not spending enough money on IT security. And they're getting, hit with ransomware. I understand there's all different kinds of ways you can get hit with ransomware, but you've got to have a backup that, an immutable backup, a backup that cannot be altered, cannot be encrypted, in order to restore that data. Because, it's crazy that all these organizations are losing their data and they have to pay millions to get it back, which of course just feeds into the hackers.
And you're paying them money and trusting these thieves to do the right thing.
Right. Yeah. A lot of times they don't even get the keys to do it. So anyway, the Iowa school district got taken. The Dole Fruit Company got taken. I don't know if you heard about that, but Dole Fruit could not bring you your bananas because they had no way of knowing which stores ordered them because all their data got encrypted. Yeah. It's just crazy how
that hits home.
Yes. Well, how do they reach you, Scott, if they want to, get your services? Well, we're in the Portland, Oregon area, so if you're outside of Portland, sorry, but if you'd like to reach Scott to, get services from his company, how do they reach you?
Website is www.nwtechsupport.com. Email is scott@nwtechsupport.com. And I do go up into Washington, over to Bend at times, down to the coast at times, and down as far as Eugene too.
And if you give him a free ticket, he'll pretty much fly anywhere. I mean,
Oh, absolutely. You want me to be there? You buy me a ticket, I'm there. Hotel too.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, we've been on a lot of trips together back in the old days. We went to fancy beaches all over the world. So, but that was for our great sales capabilities, not necessarily, we've been to Las Vegas, many times for CES. I was thinking about going back to CES next year. What do you think?
I think we should do it. We haven't been there for a while and see how things have changed. I used to do a lot of traveling for Kaspersky when I was in their professional services, and they flew me to Montreal and Toronto and Dallas.
I forgot about that. That's right.
And
what was the farthest that you went?
What's that? It would probably be Montreal.
That's pretty good. I remember flying into Toronto and they've got these really bad crosswinds, and I thought I was going to lose my lunch going into that. And they said, yeah, it's like that every time we come in. Wow, that's scary. Anyway, fantastic. Well, it's been a really fun first show with you, Scott. I really appreciate you being on. And we're going to have another show here in the next week where we'll be posting it up on YouTube, and we hope you will join us there as well.